So you just graduated. You're exhausted but relieved. You're proud, but you're still looking after what to do next. You're probably going to take your board exams. You're free from the academic stress, but then reality hits that you still have one more final test that you have to take. And this test is very high stakes because it will determine if you are eligible to be a professional in your field, whether it's your board exam in the Philippines or a certification abroad or actually any other high stakes exam you want to pass, but the time, it may be limited. You may be doubting your capacities. You may be wondering if your resources are enough. You may be wondering if you can actually do it. You want to rest, but you need to push. But the secret here is that you just have to study smart. You have to work smart and not hard. You don't have to burn out yourself. You don't have to dedicate every day of 3 to 4 months just to study and do nothing else with your life. Hey, I'm Angelica, and here we're all about shifting our mindset in order to grow and become the best version of ourselves. And today we are going to talk about how I passed the board exams with only less than a month to review, and how you can actually do the same as well with these high-yield tips and the habits that I practiced, as well as the mindset shift. So back in college, I was actually just an average student. I was barely passing, and while I graduated with Latin honors, which I explained here, I just really considered myself as someone who is just getting by, and I knew that it will be a challenge because I came from an online class setup and it will be really challenging to review for the board exams. I knew my foundations were not that solid, and I knew that I really had to put in more effort in order to make sure that I am maximizing my resources. I was constantly doubting myself and my abilities if I can even do it. After I graduated, there are only 2 months left before the actual exams, and the next scheduled exams are actually around 6 to 8 months from my graduation period. So I was really torn, but I realized that I should just go for it. So I reviewed in an online review center, and I took the risk and I just went for it. After graduation, I actually had a month-long trip overseas, and that left me with only 1 month to review. I wasn't maximizing my review center at that time because even though we had a lot of assessments online, we had lectures online, and we have hard copy materials of things to study for the board exam, I didn't touch any of them. I didn't study anything. I didn't take any practice exams until there's only 1 month left before the actual exams, because I was in vacation and I wanted to make the most out of that time. I wanted to enjoy the moment after graduation. So what I actually did was I just created a game plan that works for me. I really maximized my study habits and the learning styles that worked for me. I even actually just filed my application for the board exams the day before the deadline. So I realized that maybe this is something that I'm really destined to take, and I should do my best and maximize the resources that I have, because I was still very privileged to be able to afford a reputable review center and to be able to go on vacation right after graduation. So I should really make it up to myself and to my family to really make the most of my academic journey. Now let's get on to the high-yield tips and study habits that personally worked for me. And if you only have a little time to review and maybe you are balancing it with other academics, maybe you're going into higher studies, or you have a job, or you're balancing it with your business, side hustles, or whatever the case may be, this is what worked for me, and this is just a 1 month review plan that I followed. So number 1, you have to reverse engineer the exam. And what that means is that you should be able to study the scope of it. You should be able to understand the different topics and subtopics and the equivalent weight of those to your final rating. So obviously you have to prioritize the topics that are more heavy on the weight. And this is actually true for any exams, whether that be the board exams, any certifications, even a job interview, even a presentation at school, or a demo in your actual workplace. You have to understand the objectives, what are expected from you. What are the things that you are supposed to know, and what are the topics that you should cover? You should be able to understand the extent of the coverage and what topics you should really focus on. Perhaps some of the topics are just 20% of the final grade, 10%, 5%. So You really have to be able to study it smartly and make sure that you are focusing and giving the right attention and the right effort to the topics in accordance to their equivalent weight in your final rating. Before you start any study plans, any schedules, you have to understand this, because this will be the blueprint for your success. This will be the blueprint for how you will study, how you will take notes, how you will practice assessments, and what topics you should really touch on more. It's not about focusing on your weaknesses. It should be about focusing on what is more important, what will be covered more in the exams. Of course, you still have to be able to take note of your weaknesses, but at the same time, you should balance it with what really matters and what they are expecting and looking for from you. Okay, moving on. You should not try to study everything. You should be able to focus on the basics and focus on the foundations of the different subjects. You know, there are always the common must-know questions, the common must-know concepts. And one thing that helped me is being able to maximize the different tables, the different side notes of different chapters of different topics in a textbook, because those are made for a reason. They are separated from a big body of text for a reason. It's because they should be emphasized, and they should be the ones that you should really understand, memorize, and be able to know by heart. Also, you should focus on the topics that are frequently asked during your college exams, quizzes, tests, the kind of questions that are always recurring, the kind of questions that are always reinforced and always rationalized when you were in college or during your board exam review in your review center or any learning institutions, and perhaps also in different review books and different practice tests. There are always those concepts that are always standing out and that are always being asked, whether that be the exact same question or maybe it's reformulated. Take note of those, because those are the ones that are given emphasis for a reason. Next one is you should avoid information overload. For me, I feel like you should really simplify the materials that you are reviewing and that you are scanning. The mere fact that you reviewed in this specific review center, you should understand that you're doing this because you are giving your full trust into this institution, that they will be able to train you, to review you efficiently, and to give you all the knowledge that you need in order to pass the board exam. Regardless of their price range or regardless of how many materials they are giving you, it is actually up to you on how you will be able to maximize this. And it doesn't mean that you are maximizing the review materials when you try to get as many as you can. Having too much sources from different PDFs on the internet, or probably from your peers or any other sources, it can actually create more confusion, and it can get very inefficient because subconsciously you are getting overwhelmed by all these information you have to know. And most of the times, these review materials contain the exact same information and they are just paraphrased and reworded. In conclusion, they can get really inefficient, they can get confusing, and they will affect your productivity in the long run. Instead, what you should do is you should be able to understand the materials that work for you. Probably they can still be your old notes from college or your mother notes from your review center. Focus on the materials that are always emphasized during your review season or during your time in college. And the most important thing is that you should be able to summarize all of these information in your own way. Make your own reviewers, or do a lot of practice tests, do a lot of active recalls instead of just reading every time. But it also depends on your learning style, so really figure out what works for you. But you should be able to simplify the resources that you are reviewing and just master what you have already, because when you master these information, then you will not be faced if you read something new from a different resource, because you know that you have already touched that and you have already reviewed that, so there's no sense in reading it again and again from different resources. Next, you have to understand that testmanship is the key. You don't have to know it all. And actually, I believe that nobody comes to an exam knowing everything, fully memorizing everything by heart. That is just impossible, and that is just inefficient, because you have a life outside your review, you have a life outside this test. So it is impossible that you get to memorize everything that you need to know. And of course, there will always be questions that are challenging, that are tricky, or that are very unfamiliar. So of course, the way to practice your testmanship is to do a lot of practice tests. It doesn't even have to be the traditional pen and paper. It can be through different applications, to different online forms. There are a lot of ways to practice your testmanship, and you can even read questions and the corresponding answers right after. If you don't feel like answering anything, you can read different review books and review materials that have question and answers format. Also, you have to understand that your testmanship during college, during your days in university, should be solidified, and you should be trained enough to be able to answer any question smartly. I mean, you have to be able to eliminate choices with rationalization. You should be able to make educated guesses, and you should be familiarized with the structures of different questions and how they will be presented to you. My college program actually is very theoretical heavy, and we were given a lot of assessments, different quizzes, and a lot of things to answer when we were in college. So I was really trained how to answer questions and understand how will they be formulated and what are the resources that will be used. So I think that will be very helpful, and that is an efficient way to study. Bottom line, testmanship should be about you being able to make informed choices by eliminating the different answers, and if you have time, rationalize why these answers are wrong and why your chosen answer is correct. Next is that you should be able to maximize your own study time. You don't have to wake up too early in the morning. You don't have to stay up so late at night. You don't have to study like 12 hours per day. You don't have to be so strict with your time. You don't have to use Pomodoro technique and all those other study techniques while you take breaks and all of that. You have to understand what works for you, and that includes being able to understand and listen to your body. For me personally, I only studied around 4 hours every day, and I took breaks frequently. I went out frequently. Well, not as frequently, but I went out during that review season, and there were days where I just took time off. I just studied one resource. I just did practice tests all day. I just read all day. It changes every day, but it really just depends on you on how you will make it sustainable, because the review period doesn't have to be so dreading. It doesn't have to be so draining for you. You still have a life outside it, and you should be able to enjoy your life. I mean, it doesn't mean that you should be complacent and that you should just always give yourself that grace, and if you're not feeling like it, then you won't do it. Of course, you have to push yourself, but you have to know your limits. Like, for example, what worked for me was just reading and taking practice tests. I didn't make any reviewers. I didn't make any wall notes. I didn't clutter my space with too much information, and I wasn't strict on the things I should be memorizing every day. But I made sure to review every subject that is covered by the board exam every week. So every week I am touching all of the subjects, and I am studying them in equivalence to their respective weights on the final rating. Also, I wasn't strict with what I was eating, in the sense that I was not trying to lose weight. I was not trying to be on an all vegetable diet or any sort of strict diet, because I know that my body needs to be nourished, and I need to have my comfort foods, and I need to have breaks, and I want to be able to enjoy fast food and all these other snacks that will help me stay on track and help me stay productive and encouraged and disciplined. Another thing is that I frequently took rests, breaks. I had naps, I exercised in between. I just did what my body was asking from me, and even though I was really trying to stay disciplined and really trying to stay on top of what I should review, I knew my limits, and you should too. Because the more that you force yourself, the more you will burn out, and you may even develop diseases. You may get sick in between, and that will hamper your progress so much more. That will make you more inefficient. Now, next up is that you should have a conducive space for you to review. And it doesn't have to be in a cafe or just inside your house, just inside your room. You know, do what works for you. Find out what works for you. Because your space actually impacts your focus. And the people you are surrounded with, your environment, it affects how you will perform. So you should be able to clean it up. You should be able to hang out with people or not hang out with people as much if that's what's working for you. You can or choose not to make all these wall notes, all these reviewers. You don't have to make your reviewers aesthetic if you think that will be inefficient for you. You can always choose to just review in your iPad or review the hard copy materials if that's what's working for you. You just have to think about efficiency, and you should be able to stick to your study plan. Now we're moving on to the mindset that you actually need to cultivate. So actually what worked for me was, of course, prayers and manifestation. It's about acting in alignment of what I want to happen. Of course, I stayed very devoted. I frequently read motivational, inspirational quotes, read the Bible, prayed, went to church, and asked for encouragement from the people around me. But I think what really helped me was I frequently imagined myself passing the board exam, seeing my name on that list, being able to go to my oath taking. I was already planning what I was going to wear. I was already planning what I will do afterwards. And I was already visualizing and living as if I passed the board exams. And that's the thing, that it will motivate and encourage you more once you understand that this is possible for me. I will get there. It will happen. And what will my future self do if that's already happening, if that's already my reality? Will the version of me who already passed the board exam have all these doubts and have all these negative feelings of not being enough, not doing my best enough, when I know that I already passed? So what is that version of me doing right now? And so by believing it and by understanding that it is possible, you should be fueled by this motivation and this belief that you can manifest and you can align with these goals. You can affirm and speak it out loud. But the thing is, you should be able to believe it by heart. It won't work if you just keep imagining, if you just keep motivating yourself, but deep down you have all these doubts that my review materials are not enough, I won't pass, I have so little time to review, all my other peers are already on this chapter and I'm still stuck on this chapter, I'm still reviewing this part, I'm not doing enough practice tests. If you have all these doubts and all these negativities in your mind, then your manifestation and your prayers are actually useless. You don't believe that you can pass. You don't believe that what you're doing is enough. And probably you're not actually doing enough. You're not acting enough, or you're not reviewing enough, you're not honoring yourself enough, you're not maximizing your review materials, you're not maximizing the day. You have all these doubts for a reason, not just because you want to self-sabotage, but maybe because you are actually not doing enough. So you have to be able to always check your progress, and you have to commit to fully believing that you can do it by doing your best at everything. Next up is you should be able to detach from the outcome as well. You shouldn't operate from fear or desperation. You shouldn't have this lack mindset, because these thoughts will always haunt you and sabotage you. If you already know that you are underperforming during your review, then see to it that you improve daily. See to it that you are doing more than yesterday. See to it that you are changing your techniques as needed. See to it that you are changing your routine and you're trying your best to make the most of what you have. But along with that, along with the prayers and the manifestations, is that you should detach from the outcome. Of course you want to pass, of course you want the best outcome, but you should also realize that whatever the result may be, as long as I know that I did my best, then I am okay. I will be okay. I will find a way to cope with whatever the situation will be after this exam. My happiness and my whole life will not depend on what will happen after. I should be able to enjoy my privilege of having the time to review. I should be able to enjoy the fact that I already graduated and I am moving on to the next part of my life. I should be able to be happy regardless of what will happen next, because I am doing my best. I am given all these blessings. I am given all these privileges. So I should just make the most out of it. And I know that I will be able to make a game plan regardless if I pass or not. Of course, you have to be confident. You have to build your trust in yourself. You have to build that confidence, and you should be able to act in alignment to the version of you who already passed the exams. But that doesn't mean that your emotions, your feelings, and your direction in life will depend only on the version of you that will pass the exams. It is very challenging and tricky to detach from the outcome, because of course, it is scary to fail. It is scary if we don't make it despite all these efforts. But practicing detachment will free yourself from all these negativities. It will free yourself from doubts, and it will make you more in alignment to what you want to become. You are not just defined by the grades you get. You are not just defined by the license you get to have after this, or the license you still have to work hard for. You are defined by your resilience, by how you stand back up, by how you train your mindset. So with that, you have to realize that your progress is not a race. I know it is cliche to say that you shouldn't compare your progress with others, you shouldn't compare your timeline to others, and you shouldn't be peer pressured. But I know that it is inevitable, and that even if we are taking our own unique paths, we are still bound to compare ourselves to other people, and that's completely fine. But you should be able to cultivate a sense of security in yourself, that regardless if other people are beyond me or if they are achieving more than me, it's not a reason for me to compare and to feel sorry for myself. I know that I am doing my best, and I know that whatever happens next, I will be able to bounce back. I will be able to move forward and progress, because I'm always open to learning. I am always open to change, and I know that I am building up my resilience. So it doesn't matter what other people have or what they have achieved already, because I am so secure of myself, and I know that I am on the right path. I am on the right track. You should be able to train your mind to understand that you have your own unique journey and you are exactly where you are meant to be. So it is useless to obsess over the lives of others, over the progress of others, and to feel bad when you feel like they're ahead of you. Because your only competition is yourself. If you are not getting better every day, if you are not better than your old self yesterday, then that's when you should worry. Because the only race that you have is with yourself. Now with that, you should be able to understand that there is enough success for everybody. Once again, you should be operating on an abundance mindset. The achievement of others won't take away from what is in store for you. It doesn't matter if all these people pass the board exams, because you will always have a spot. You will always have your time to shine. You are not competing with anyone. You are not competing for any resources. You shouldn't think that there will be less job opportunities for you if you don't pass right away. You shouldn't think that there will be less career options to take. You shouldn't feel like you will have less resources after this. There is enough success for everyone. And again, as long as you are doing your best, you are praying, you are manifesting, you are aligning, then you shouldn't worry, because you will eventually get there. It is inevitable that you will be successful. Just the mere fact that you want it, just the mere fact that you are working so hard and you are doing all these habits and all these mindset shifts, it means that it is on its way to you. So you don't have to compete, you don't have to feel scarce, you don't have to feel like maybe it won't come, maybe it's not for me, maybe it's not my time yet. Your time will come and all your achievements will come. And with that, you should realize that if you are doing your best and you are trusting that you are enough, and you are trusting that you are progressing, you are growing, and that you have the proper mindset and you are self-secured, then there's no reason for you to doubt yourself. There's no reason for you to feel like you will fail. Regardless of the outcomes, you will be successful in the end. If you believe that you are capable, if you believe that you have been preparing properly, and if you are keeping that right energy, then you are already halfway there. So to wrap everything up, you should understand that your timeline is valid, your pace is enough, and this exam doesn't define your worth. But it definitely can open new doors, more opportunities for you when you are ready to take it. That's the thing. It won't be given to you, it won't be granted to you if you are not ready for it, if you are not meant to be in that season of your life yet. But you can actually change this by preparing, by doing your best during the review season, by making sure that you are acting in alignment to what you want to achieve. If you really deeply believe it in yourself that you are ready, that you are capable of achieving this milestone, and if you are capable in thriving in this profession, and you know that you will use this license into good use, then there's no doubt that it will be handed to you. Regardless of what will happen, there will always be something in store for you. You just have to use the outcome as your motivation to do more, to grind more, to be able to make better choices. And above all, the most important thing is to keep your mindset intact. It is the most powerful thing that you have right now. It can direct your actions, and what you keep repeating to yourself, whether that's subconsciously or when you don't speak it, when it's just your thoughts, or the way you affirm yourself, it is very powerful and it will come to life. The more that you repeat it, the more that you put emphasis on it. I hope you have learned something new from this video and you have found some of the tips helpful. But if I would have a final say, it's that you should normalize the feeling of already passing. And you should eliminate the doubts that you have by making sure you are checking your progress from time to time, and that you are pivoting, and that you are changing your techniques as you go if you feel like you're not doing enough. There is always a way for you to do more and to be better, and that doesn't mean that you should sacrifice yourself and sacrifice the life that you have. You can do it regardless of how long you will study or how many materials you have. It is up to you on how you will maximize all these resources. And your mindset is very important, not just what you know, but what you feel. And if you are watching this, I know that you will pass regardless of what exam that will be. And know that you are enough. And your life probably won't end regardless of the results or the outcomes. If you are feeling anxious, if you feel like what you're doing is not enough, and if you feel like you have all these unnecessary fear, unnecessary doubts, then remind yourself of what you have achieved so far. The mere fact that you have survived all the assessments and you graduated and you are on the next chapter of your life, remember that you can duplicate that and you can rise above and be even more of that. There is no need to be taken over by fear, by discouragement, as long as you believe in yourself and you normalize the feeling of passing. It will end with your license.